Hey guys, what's up? Darcy here at 6 Strings 9 Lives. Welcome to episode 29 of 6 with 6 Strings. Even though I am in full-on Saxon mode here for probably about the past week or so, waiting for some hell, fire, and damnation, I've had this idea for an episode of 6 with 6 Strings kicking around for probably 2 or 3 weeks. I'll tell you kind of how it came about. Believe me, it's not rocket scientist stuff here. Just me, talking about 6 albums. So if you're new to these episodes, sometimes it's random, but mostly based around a theme. Today, I am going to talk about 6 vocalists that only did one album for a band. Did they suck? Did they rule? Did it work? Did the fans accept it? Was it something they needed based out of necessity? Someone got fired? Things like that. So I thought, this would be a great one for, the comment section to get involved. I went through my collection and I found more than I thought I was gonna. How this came about, there is a reissue coming for Omen, Escape from Nowhere, which is their 4th album. I love Omen. I love early Omen. J.D. Kimball, fantastic vocalist. Honestly, he is the vocalist for Omen. But Escape from Nowhere features Coburn Farr, who also will feature in this video. Anyways, I pre-ordered that. It was the one Omen album I still wanted to get. Anything beyond that, not really interested. But it got me thinking about bands that had a vocalist come in only for one album. I tried to stay away from the, the easy picking like Anthrax, Exodus. Those were original vocalists that went away after one album. I'm talking more where somebody came in the middle of a discography. There is many bands that a vocalist came in and did 2 albums. Some of the bigger names, those. But I thought this would be cool to see, how the fans and people reacted to these certain vocalists. And, was the band at the time just wanting to try something new, or like I said, did the vocalist get let go type of thing? But today, so yeah, feel free, throw them in the comment section. I won't mention the other ones I have, and if there's a little bit of you mentioning a few that I still have, go for it. And there's going to be some that I have never heard of or forgotten about, things like that, which I always love to read in the comment section. So let's start with one of my all-time favorite bands, who the original vocalist is one of my all-time favorite vocalists, is Udo Dirkschneider. But anyways, the band we're going to start off with is Accept, their 8th studio album from 1989, entitled Eat the Heat. This one eats a lot of shit for no reason, as far as I'm concerned. It is a good album. There is a couple of kind of weak, I wouldn't even say glammy tracks, but man, that the signature Wolf Hoffman guitar sound is in here. So this is the first album since, so 3 years go by. Udo leaves the band. First album since 1986's Russian Roulette. And, they wanted to go into a different direction. They tried this. It didn't, not a commercial failure, but it did not work out. And that basically after this, Accept disbanded until 93 when Udo returned to the band for a temporary 4 or 5 year reunion. But this has some great tracks. And if you want to hear, I would say if you're a fan of Metal Heart, there is some really kind of expanded songs from Metal Heart, but featuring, David Reese. So if I didn't mention that already, David Reese is the vocalist they brought in. He did a great job. But tracks like XTC, awesome. The heaviest track on here where you would really feel that, even early Accept feel would be Hellhammer. Turn the Wheel, which actually features Udo Dirkschneider on backing vocals. And Generation Clash, that's top notch in my books too. And what I was talking about, a couple weaker ones, you got Love Sensation, Stand for What You Are. They are more on the commercial side, but I would, if you shelved this album and just said, no, I don't like it, go back, check out Hellhammer or Turn the Wheel. Fantastic songs. You know that Udo left the band after, his parting gift was basically this album. This was a fully written album, said, here you go record this, find some musicians, and came out with Animal House debut. But if you want to hear a couple of tracks where Udo does a couple of David Reese songs, check out Death Row. There is a song on here. It is Generation Clash 2 with Udo on vocals. So basically, Udo does Generation Clash. And then on Udio's Celebrator, which is a kind of a compilation of rare tracks, there is a Udio cover of an Accept song, and it is XTC. Now, I will say, as big a fan as I am of Udo Dirkschneider, the David Reese versions on Eat the Heat are better in my opinion. I'll quickly show you two of the Europe. So that was this is the North American cover. I like it a lot better than, this is quite glossy too. So this is the European cover of Eat the Heat. This is the one I am most familiar with from back in the day when I purchased this in 1989, but go back, give it a chance. If you don't like it and you want to just move on or move back to your, balls to the wall, things like that, I understand. All right, moving on. Here's another band I really, not a big discography, been around for a long time, but in 1989, I believe they brought in a vocalist for their, actually kind of a well-known vocalist for their third album. And I'm talking about Onslaught in Search for Sanity, which the vocalist is Steve Grimmett. I don't know if it was record label pressure. I believe that this album was originally recorded with Cy Keeler on vocals, then they shelved it, brought in Steve. It still has those thrashy elements in it, but this one has never been a high point for me with Onslaught. I mean, if I want Steve Grimmett, this is where it's at for me, these three albums. He is more of a melodic singer, not, he's a little more, I don't know, it has a better range. Doesn't quite fit the thrash enough for me, but there are some really good songs on here. But there are some real weak points. And one of the weakest point on here is a cover of AC/DC's Let There Be Rock. Terrible, terrible. I would just say Shell Shock was really good. And Welcome to Dying, quite a long song, but really good. I'm not sure, and again, the point of this video is Steve only was there for one album. I don't even know if, they toured much with Steve Grimmett, but I do like Onslaught. That song I mentioned, Shell Shock, one second here. If you want to hear a Cy Keeler doing Shell Shock, if you pick up Onslaught 6, there is a remake where Cy does Shell Shock. Much better in my opinion. But still some good tracks on In Search for Sanity, but just not an Onslaught album that I go to very often. I mean, if you want Onslaught at its premium, I would say all you would need is this album, The Force from 1986, which makes me wonder why, why did Cy leave the band, or was he forced to leave the band, to make way for Steve Grimmett to do the vocals on In Search for Sanity? Let me know in the comments. Like I said, I don't pretend to know everything. I really actually, depend on some cool feedback in the comment section. But anyways, showing more than 6 albums, but tying in, let's move on to, here's a well-known band, still going, way past their prime in my opinion. Not really interested in anything they've done since after this album, I would say. But I'm talking about the one and only album from Motley Crue to feature John Corabi on vocals. This one, is kind of, you know, a mixed bag for fans. People either love it or hate it type of thing. I love it. I think it's the most, for lack of better word, intelligent album that Motley Crue ever did. The songs are so good, well written, structured, production superb. You know, another one with Bob Rock. John Corabi brings a different element. He also plays guitar, which thicken things up, especially live. But man, tracks like Power to the Music, Hooligan's Holiday, I think possibly was the first single. But then there's tracks that are so heavy. Probably the heaviest track that Motley Crue's ever done is Smoke the Sky, Poison Apples. This thing's, I'm hoping for a vinyl reissue from this now that BMG owns the whole catalog. But you know, tell me what you think. I know John Corabi is back with the Dead Daisies, has a great voice. I really think, even though Vince came back and they did, you know, Generation Swine, New Tattoo, Saints of Los Angeles, Generation Swine, not a good album at all, in my opinion. New Tattoo, Saints have a few good tracks, but this is kind of the real cutoff point for me, if I'm being honest with you. But there's one. Tell me what you think of that one. Did you give up on it? Is it one of your favorites? All right, let's pile that over here. Moving on. What are we on? Okay, so here's the one that the vocalist that kind of, I said, sparked, this video got me thinking about vocalists who only did one album for a certain band. But this is one of my favorite Annihilator albums. This is Never Neverland, featuring Coburn Farr on vocals. So I think he did Omen after this, probably. I forget what year that Omen album came out. But anyways, great Annihilator album. Annihilator is basically the Jeff Waters project. There is so many lineup changes and things to follow. If you don't know the band well, it's actually mind-boggling of who did what or who played actually on an album. But it's mostly Jeff Waters, and I do love Annihilator, which I know I've mentioned this like several times, but supposed to be some news on those reissues here in January. And also the, 35th anniversary of Alice in Hell. We'll be getting a reissue, I think, on Rhino Records. But yeah, Coburn Farr, his one and only album with Annihilator. The next album after this, Set the World on Fire, he does have some writing credits on it. And remember, I'm just talking about studio albums, so whether he appeared on a live album, down the line, which I think he did. But yeah, Annihilator, Never Neverland. And if you're one of those people that gives up on Annihilator after that album, you probably should check out a few more. There is some really good stuff, and I will buy all of those reissues as they come out. I suspect they will come out 2 at a time from Ear Music, and they've done a fantastic job on any of their reissues. What do we got left? 2 left. And, I tried to stay with some bigger names or some more well-known bands, so let's do this one. This is the 11th studio album from Black Sabbath, one and only one to feature Deep Purple's Ian Gillan on vocals. There is that notorious cover. On a side note, this is one I am hoping for, that they do a deluxe remastered. They're supposed to be this year, remastered. I know the remixed version of that Live Evil is fantastic. I actually prefer it over the original. Hope that's the same way. This one it's known for the muddy production, but I've done a Black Sabbath ranking video, and you'll be surprised where this one lands. I really enjoy this album. Not number one or anything, but it's not in the bottom half, put it that way. So after Ronnie and, of course, Ronnie leaves the band, Vinny Appice leaves, so we bring in Ian on vocals, and Bill Ward rejoins the band. So yeah, one and only with Ian on vocals. I think it's a very unique thing. I don't know what the thought process was back then. Did they think this is a, something that was going to last? Was he just a, I know there was other options prior to this, but they settled with this in the end. But what, was something like this going to last, the long haul? Obviously it didn't, but yeah, Born Again, not a bad album from Black Sabbath. Coming up, last of the 6 today. And again, I'll just let you know, throw them down in the comments. There's other choices that I was going to go with, but a couple I didn't know as well, kind of got into the bands later type of thing. So I like to kind of just go with some stuff that I know a little bit better. This one is, I don't know, kind of an obvious choice when you're thinking about a singer that only came in for one album, and this is 1998's Van Halen 3 11th studio album. And not a shock that it is very low in the Van Halen ranking. People don't hold it in high regards. I really don't either. I think Gary Sharon, who came in on vocals, which I hope I mention all the vocalists, that's the point of the video, but anyways, Gary from Extreme. I am not a big Extreme fan, if I'm honest with you. Just not. So, but I think wrong choice. Looking back, probably what I would have done is, if you are a Van Halen fan and you know how good a vocalist that Michael Anthony is, I would have scaled this thing down to a 3-piece and I would have let Michael do the vocals or try it. Also, Eddie Van Halen sings too. He has a kind of a deeper voice, track like Humans Being. I'm still with Sammy on vocals too, but he has some really killer backing vocals. And the harmony of Van Halen with, especially Michael Anthony is the key to that. I would have let him try it, but instead they went with this. I know a lot of this was more maybe an Eddie Van Halen solo deal almost. He even did drums on this. He did bass. He did pretty much arranged everything. But if I was going to pick a couple of points out of here, a couple of key tracks, my favorite track is Fire in the Hole. Once is a really decent track, and Without You. But man, there is some really weird stuff on here. Starts off pretty weird with New World. From Afar, not the greatest track. Josephine just did not work in my opinion. Of course, and actually with a couple of these bands, the original vocalist came back around. Motley Crue, Vince Neil comes back around. Van Halen, David Lee Roth comes back around. Sammy, to an extent, I think he did a couple of, or actually I think that was before. That Best of Volume 1 actually came out before this. This is 98, that came out in 96. But yeah, so there's 6 examples of, did they suck? Did they rule? I don't know, let me know. But overall, I think out of the 6, there's some really unique albums in those 6, and it obviously didn't make it through the long haul. And out of these bands, we still got quite a few of them still going, so that's pretty cool too. Yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed that one. Until next time, stay heavy.